So we are now going back on the record. It is 3:31 p.m. It is February 23rd. Ms. Alzo.
Thank you. While in executive session, 2 motions were made, one at 2:55 to extend for 30 minutes to 3:30, again at 3:20, and motion to extend to 4 o'clock was made, both passed by unanimous consent. At this time, I would make a motion to preserve the confidentiality of the tapes from executive session until all litigation regarding matters discussed is resolved.
Second.
So there is a motion to set the terms of the agreement made by, or to release the tapes by Ms. Zalatel, seconded by Mr. Bond. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing and seeing none, is there anyone asked for unanimous consent? Is there any objection to the motion? I hear and see no objections. The motion carries. The terms of release of the tape shall be when all litigation and matter to the pending matters discussed in executive session are completed. So with that, now we have before us again AR 2024-75. Anyone wish to speak to the item? Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. I wish to make an amendment. On page 2 of 2, I would like to add a new section 2 that reads, the Assembly requests the municipal administration obtain special counsel to protect the interests of the municipality, not specific to any single party or municipal department, utility, or enterprise.
That is a motion by Ms. Alto. Is there a second? Mr. Johnson seconds. I would ask for the sponsors to consider, or the movers to consider a slight amendment, just adding the term branch in there somewhere.
Sure. So it would read not specific to any single party, comma, branch or municipal department, comma, utility or enterprise.
Second, are okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay, the motion to amend is support. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing and seeing none. On this, the members may proceed to vote.
Member Martinez?
Yes.
Member Rivera?
Yes.
Member Bronca?
Yes.
Member Johnson?
Yes.
Chair Constant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Zalatel?
Yes.
Member Cross?
Yes.
Member Volland?
Yes.
Member Perez-Verdilla?
Yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
So now we have the motion before us as amended. This is time to have some discussion on matters. If anyone wants to bring up things that are consumable by the public that are able to be spoken, not that were protected in the executive session. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. So I think it's important that since this resolution would authorize the potential for litigation by the Assembly around the Eklutna River project, to remember that the Assembly has been working on this issue for a number of years before I even got on the body in 2019, and has asked time and time again to be included in the conversation and not just be told what is happening, to have our role respected as appropriators, as policymakers. The policy has remained the same in all of the time I have been on the body, and is now codified. And it's really unfortunate to get to this point, but I'm not without some optimism that this passing today, which I'm really hopeful that it will, and I urge your support, can be a catalyst to hopefully get past this point to the point of figuring out the path forward. Figuring out a path forward that acknowledges and respects our role as the legislative branch of government, that is open and transparent with the public, and make sure that the native village of Eklutna has a proper seat at the table as well. So with that, I urge your support. Thank you.
Any other members wish to speak to the item? No. Mr. Martinez.
Oh, Chair, is this the opportunity to speak to the comments that were earlier, or is that part of this record?
it would be now or not related to this item under assembly member comments, so it probably is germane to this item, I would say now.
Sure. I would go to reserve for assembly member comments.
Okay, that's fine. The gist of the discussion was, before the meeting, the municipal attorney opined that we were acting in opposition to the interests of the municipality, and the assembly was given an opportunity to reconsider its vote whether or not to exclude the municipal attorney, who has demonstrated participation on the other side of this discussion that we've been having, and nobody reconsidered that vote. And so, for the purposes of our legislative process, defending our legislative power, the assembly voted to exclude the municipal attorney, and did. For the purpose of the discussion, there was an amendment that was made to this item by Ms. Zalatal that requests that the municipal attorney hire a special counsel so that there is a third party who can participate and keep the interests of the municipality right at the center, but isn't already predisposed to a decision on the question we have before us. And so I think in acting to protect our interests, that was a good decision by the members. This amendment's a good decision, and I urge your support. Ms. Bronca.
Thank you, Mr. Boland, for getting me on the right page. But I do think that 23 through 28 lines, it's possible that it should say, and the executive branch of the municipality of Anchorage, if they made this decision without the assemblies, we're saying that the 1991 agreement was supposed to, previously was done without assembly approval. Do we want to, in some way in this line, say, this is the executive branch has done this, or is that not important?
So I would argue that we are not a party to the 1991 agreement. So there is no place for us at this time in any of their discussions, but if their discussions are involving any form of assembly authorized or municipal interest, then that's where our role is, and that's the gist of this whole document. Okay. And so I don't think there's any more specific language that needs to be there.
Okay.
I think it's the gist of this whole document is that, in part, we believe the administration has overstepped their bounds in binding decisions that are the assembly's to make. That's the gist.
I'm just thinking that Ms. Helser's saying that we are one and we're acting as two, but they were originally the people who made us act as two with that agreement that we were left out of, or the assembly members that came before us were left out of. So that's just where I was at, but I understand what you're saying.
And under the separation of powers, it is in fact the authority of the executive branch to do certain negotiations. It's once the negotiations cross into making agreements that grant our charter-granted decisions away, that we have a problem. Oftentimes, the negotiation will happen. They negotiate an agreement and bring it to us for consideration. That's actually normal operation of business. But what isn't okay is when actions are taken that cross the line. And so, again, you may make an amendment, but I think the whole gist of this document is exactly that point.
All right.
Mr. Walland.
Thank you. So I want to go back to Ms. Helser's comments before we went into executive session. I guess I would just have two questions for Assembly Council. Number one, is it the case that sometimes the municipal attorney can act on behalf of one department or branch as a client?
Well, in general, yes. The municipal attorney often assigns projects on department basis, department heads. If I understood your question, I mean.
Let's say, for instance, there was a disagreement between the planning department and the assembly. Could the municipal attorney represent the interest of the planning department as a client.
So, under our Alaska Rules of Professional Conduct for attorneys, government attorneys have sort of a special rule. It does allow government attorneys to represent the government agencies, but they need to apply that with some certain, discretion in the sensitivity. If there's diverse departments, especially assembly and planning, they should screen separate attorneys and so that they're handled appropriately as separate and diverse parties. So I don't think there's any logical understanding that we have one attorney, diverse departments representing both of them.
Okay, and then I think that is helpful, thank you. My second question is it your understanding that the municipal attorney has a supervisory role over assembly council based on the charter or code?
No, that's not my understanding at all. The municipal attorney cited Charter Section 406, and it says part of it, assembly may engage such legal counsel and other professional advisors, blah, 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 in the execution of its legislative functions. And we have done that. We've hired assembly counsel. We have a section about assembly counsel. None of it refers to being under the supervision of the municipal attorney. Legislative functions are yours under our diversity executive branch. Professional legal services you engage are assemblies, not assembly subject to municipal attorney who represents also the executive branch of all its governments.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I would put a little refinement on that briefly, that we had a previous conversation just a meeting or two ago in which the 7th floor and the 8th floor are attempting to so narrowly define legislative function that it can only be financial in nature, which is a very strange argument. We are the ones who get to define legislative function unless it's so patently absurd that it is out of bounds. And so this whole conversation has been in the effect of our legislative function. They're trying to narrowly define it, that it's not. And a question to follow on your questions, Council. Rules of professional conduct. A government attorney may represent multiple parties within the government. Is there anything within the rules of conduct, the code, or the charter that says the assembly must have a municipal attorney as their representation?
No, not specifically not that.
Right. So essentially, a party to litigation has a right to choose their counsel. Right? Isn't that a principle historically in this country? You can't force us to take your attorney. We get to choose.
Yes.
And we as a body, 7 members plus, not I, not you, but we get to choose. And that, I think, is what we have done in this process. So thank you. Again, difficult. My mission in all of this, and I know I'm a little bit Pollyanna-ish here, is that this process moves us to where the parties want to negotiate in advance of any litigation. That's my goal and mission. And I hope we get there with all my heart between all of the various parties and entities, rights and rules and processes that are under our portion of the agreements that are being made toward the goal of mitigating the damage of the Eklutna hydropower project in our community. So with that, members may proceed to vote. I would know Ms. Farley appears to be back with us.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Ms. Bronca.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Chair Constant.
Yes.
Vice Chair Zalato. Yes. Mr. Cross.
Yes.
Mr. Bolland.
Yes.
Mr. Perez-Verdia.
Yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
So on a vote of 9-0, AR 2024-40 has passed, or as amended, has passed the vote.
75.
Ah, look at the wrong one. Sorry, let me do that again. On a vote of 9-0, AR 2024-75 as amended has passed the body. Sorry about that. Okay, next on the agenda we have audience participation. Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Anyone at all? Seeing no, move on to the next item on our agenda. Somebody more comments? Mr. Vaughn?
No comments from me, thank you.
Ms. Rhonda?
I just wanted to put on the record that I really want to know what's happening with the Sprung structure. And are we still paying these fees?
Yeah, there's an item on our agenda Tuesday.
Super.
Mr. Cross.
Thank you. You know, as we go through this, it's probably none of you are familiar that I'm getting a lot of flack from multiple constituents regarding the including hydroelectric project in this negotiation and draft agreement. And it's frustrating because I don't believe government should be done in secret, and these executive sessions are exhausting. And I just pray that you know that we sit here and we analyze a lot of information which sadly is not available to the public. But I pray, but my faith in God will say all will be revealed in time. And understand that I don't make these decisions lightly, I don't make them hastily. If you ask my constituents, you ask the people involved, I have conversations with people also. I try to make wise, educated decisions and not be rushed to judgment. But I just pray that the individuals who are listening within the sound of my voice, I'm not selling anybody short. The decisions we make here do not come lightly. And I look forward to the day that all is revealed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President.
No comments, thank you, Chair.
Ms. Anthony.
No comments, thanks.
On the phone we have Mr. Johnson.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
No comments, thank you.
Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Chair. Just one note. A political science moment, if you will. I did take exception earlier, and I wanted to just have one clear statement about it. With the municipal attorneys, during today's discussion, the municipal attorney on the public record asserted that the assembly was operating somehow in defiance of the municipality. And as a person who has worked for now nearly a decade within the municipal government, from the executive branch to the legislative branch, but also with a background in political science, I continuously remind the administration and other folks that there is the separation of powers, and within that, there are inherent tensions between the branches of government. But all the time, that we are one municipality. That assertion is correct. But the tension to be articulated as defiant was so out of order and obnoxious to the democratic tensions within the separation of government and the checks and balances that we have. And so I just wanted to be exceptionally clear that I continuously see that for the public's perception, that the tensions that they often see when it comes to community councils and people say, hey, what is the fighting between these different branches? In the democratic processes, there are always these tensions. But when assertions are made in vile ways, to some extent, beyond the scope of the democratic process itself, and categorization of those actions as defiant in today's proceedings was categorically obnoxious. And I just wanted to make sure I was clear about that, and also informing folks that the tensions exist. Do a better job in helping to navigate the diverse interests of the municipality to the best of your ability, rather than shortcutting and just calling foul because you're not getting your way. Thank you, Chair.
So just to summarize that for the people in the back, suggesting that we were acting in defiance is quite a thing. I think Mr. Martinez's words are on point. So for my part, on the end of this meeting, I'm very grateful to the members for seeing the wisdom of authorizing the Assembly to protect its power. We've been in this fight with this administration for a long time, and it's, every day there's a way that they're willing to grant the Assembly's legislative authority away. And this time we're acting in advance of us receiving notice that we have to spend $5 or $10 or $20 million in order not to be sued by a wealthy outside party. And so I'm really grateful for that wisdom. And to this branch in the public who's making this argument, oh, we support the owners group, let's do that because that'll protect our water, that'll protect our power. There is a proposal to spend $57 million of tax and rate increases that doesn't actually achieve the goal that's required. So we could spend $57 million and after a lawsuit have to spend 57 more net present value to achieve the goal of the program. Or we can spend the time now to square the difference between what is proposed and what is in the terms of the 1991 agreement. And so I prefer to do the work up front and now as much as possible. And to speak again briefly about Ms. Altoson, I've been on the body since 2017. That's 7 years, concluding beginning the 8th year, April 2nd, just a month and a half away. And this has been the policy of the municipality since April or March of 2017, explicitly. And every time the owners group has come and patted us on the head and made a good presentation and said, they're there, we're going to get there, and didn't do anything. That's why we're here today. That's why we're here today. So the work is going to happen. It's going to happen sooner or later. So let's get to work and fix this. And with that, many people's favorite motion is in order.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Alto, we are adjourned.